Then I'm going to hit captions. Not sure. Okay. No. Perfect. It's the first time I'm actually using captions. I didn't know Zoom had that ability. Okay, just some introductions here. I think we all know most of each other, but maybe we'll do a roundtable with SMEs, and then I'll just introduce the CST team just for time's sakes. Maybe Alana, if you could introduce yourself to the team, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Alana. I'm the speech language pathologist for the Provincial Voice Care Clinic.
Thank you. And then go on to Anne. Is it Anne here?
I'm Anne. I'm the booking clerk.
Thank you. Laura is not here, I understand. Pinky?
I'm Pinky Batanga, the administrative manager, taking over for Tiana, who's on mat leave.
Perfect. So obviously Tiana isn't here. And then I'll just introduce myself again. My name is Vince Madrid. I'm a clinical informatics specialist, nurse by background. Been with the project since 2018. Was at the bedside for a number of years before that. And then we have Stephanie Lau. She's also an informatics specialist, and Adrian Kua is our manager. From our design team, we have April Curry. She is our, I hope I just say this right, you're the application analyst. Dolores Kuzel is our BA. From the scheduling team, we have Michael Pedamonte and Raj Shah. Registration, Janet Friesen. Site clerical informatics, Florinda Turostro. And from the order sets team, I don't think they're here, but I'll introduce them anyway. Jonathan He and Andrew Fink. Okay, is there anybody that I missed from this, from either the SMEs or the informatics side? Okay, hearing nothing, we're going to go on to our purpose. So the purpose of the session or this workshop is to provide SMEs the opportunity to review the current system tools and build in Cerner that will support your clinic workflow. It's also used to identify any gaps between the current CST tools or build versus what is required for go live as a must-have. So guiding principles for change, we reviewed this initially, but we'll just do a very quick recap. So we're going to, guiding principle number one, we're not changing anything for the sake of change. We would change our model content if there's any safety, regulatory, or financial or content issues. For safety, if we have to make changes to, if there are any safety implications, any regulatory to meet any standards, whether it be national, international, or even provincial. Financial to increase efficiencies without any cost implications, and of course content. If it does not exist, we need to build it. Guiding principle number two, we're focusing on enterprise design. So we're configuring for all three health organizations, VGH, PHSA, and PHC. We're prioritizing our design topics based on what is needed first to get each site go live to the go live period. And other design topics will follow specific schedules as to when these will be accomplished in alignment with the go live roadmap. And of course, guiding principle number three are must-haves. So we're working towards creating a functional system. And of course, we'll be fine-tuning the system once we get everybody up and running using Cerner. So must-have is something we define as something that needs to be completed prior to you using the system or go live. And of course, nice to have, it's more of a request for change for additional functionality, and that will be reviewed and evaluated post-activation. So Cerner functionality demo. And I believe, Steph, this is the referral management triage portion.
Yeah, so if you can continue on to the next slide for me.
Okay.
I'll let you continue sharing the screen for now.
Sure, yeah, I think that's easier.
Yeah. All right, so in terms of functionality, I will show you this piece a little bit more in the end-to-end workflow, but I do wanted to mention that in terms of referrals, you will be receiving referrals mainly in two ways. So right now you are receiving referrals through fax, regardless if it's from clinics, from ENTs, from ENTs from other health authorities. They are all coming from fax. In the future, there will be specialists who will be referring to you internally. Internally is meaning anything that comes through a Cerner order, and then external will be basically your fax route, and that would basically, instead of going through your printer, it will go through what would be similar to an e-fax. and that will be going through a system, and then they can actually go directly into Cerner to index any referrals for you to review. And then once the referrals are processed, registered, and all the information, they will be able for you to accept or reject and prioritize the referrals. And I saw a question, will it be the same fax number? Yes, it will. The fax number will be more or less routed to that particular area. And what happens is Anne will be able to receive them all, process them, and create encounters for them, and then you'll be able to review them. Okay. And then, yeah, and then in terms of scheduling, I will let Michael do most of that work during his sessions with you. He does have quite a bit of time that will be spent with Anne to kind of go over some of those scheduling pieces. And in terms of Alana's piece, it is mainly just referral management, which is reviewing the chart, accepting and rejecting the referral, and providing the prioritization number, and also booking timeline for Anne. And then the rest will be on Anne's side. All right, next slide. And then in terms of the next functionality, I would like to introduce the ambulatory organizer. That is basically your schedule book. This will show all your appointments for the day. It will show basically the patient name, a little bit of patient details, how long, when the appointment is, also and whether the modality of the appointment. There is also one feature within ambulatory organizer, which is very useful, and I'll show you that also at the end-to-end workflow. And that is basically a sticky note function where you can use to communicate with Anne within ambulatory organizer, and she'll be able to see it as well without writing anything within the chart. So let's say if there's any questions, or like Anne wants to give you an email address, that would be a place for you that can be used. All right, next. All right, once that kind of comes in, and you see the appointment or you see the referral, you can go right ahead and click into the patient chart. Since Alana, you have had a little bit of experience with Cerner, I thought this would be something quite familiar for you. The only difference is potentially some of the things might have looked a little bit different here and there. So I'll give you a quick lowdown on some of the differences and what to expect when you see it for your clinic. All right, and then I'll pass it back over to Vince for the documentation piece.
Unmute. So documentation can occur in Cerner in a few ways. The main one for Allied is, or just in anyone, would be the dynamic documentation. So this would be the equivalent of a free text note or that progress note, where it's just a blank sheet and you just scribble freehand what any of the data, assessments, plans, etc. So you would be using the documentation section here, and you would you have a variety of templates as well. So templates are kind of this pre-formatted heading. Sometimes it pulls in information from other areas of the chart, but this will give you the main headings. And of course, you always have that option for the free text note, which is just a blank screen. You can just type away, just like a Word document. So the note template dictates what it will look like. The note type dictates where it will live in Cerner. So just imagine Cerner as one big filing cabinet. If you want your SLPs, your PTs, your nursing, your ambulatory stuff, it will all be filed in a certain way. So the note type will dictate where that lives. Oops, auto text templates. So clinicians can create personalized auto text templates for documentation. So example, if you have that free text note, and let's say I've heard, Alana, that you're quite savvy in these programs, that you could actually create almost like a pre-formatted template yourself. And within these templates, you could also create drop-down menus, just if you have multiple reasons that maybe you want, or a single reason that you may want to select, and that will insert it into your documentation as well. You could also have things like smart tokens, which will pull in the current date here. So they can be personal or public. Personal, if you could also create one, and if, let's say, down the line you have a second SLP who works at the clinic, you could share that with them so your documentation is kind of standardized throughout, and you could also modify it as your needs evolve in the clinic. So like I said, it could contain free text, so this isn't static. You could actually click into the spaces here and add some more text should you need it. And it's really to increase the efficiency in your documentation. If there's something they always document on a regular routine basis, it's recommended that you actually use one of these things. Or we also have some public phrases as well, something that's been done enterprise-wide, and you could utilize one of that. So here's a little bit of a process. So here is in this window. Oh, sorry, going back. Here you would create your text, you would use any smart tokens, you could build any drop-down lists, and then you would have this abbreviation. And here, this is just strictly for demonstration, I put voice rejection letter. So when you type in voice rejection letter here, and of course, this is just a complete sample. This is not indicative of any actual template that you need to use. This is just really words on screen for demonstration purposes. This is what will show up in your document here. And here's the final, I guess, kind of version of these in air quotations, where how it will appear in the documentation section here in your note. And of course, then you would sign and submit so it becomes legal to the patient's chart, and then it's viewable by everybody after that. And I'll pass it back to you.
All right, thank you very much. And then the last feature we do want to show you guys before we do the end-to-end workflow is something called a follow-up order. So this would mimic what you have on the piece of paper that you have shared with us as to what to book. So now that you've seen that patient the first time, you want to know what to book, when to book it, priority, and all that stuff. And also you can see that if there is any interpreters that would need to be part of the appointment, this would be also the place to indicate and also to arrange for that matter. So this is one of the, this is a screenshot, and what happens is each of the clinics would have their own follow-up order. So you see where that blank place where I kind of blurred out the name of the sample clinic will be basically replaced with your clinic name, and each clinic will have a unique follow-up clinic order so that you can use specifically just for your clinic. And for that reason, that this will help with just kind of organizing and appointment management on the clerical side as well. And I'll show you a little bit how it looks like in the system as well too. All right, next slide.
It's our break slide.
All right, so I know it's only 8:30 right now. How's everyone feeling? Do you think we can continue for another maybe half an hour? And then we can kind of check in with everyone to see how everyone's feeling. And then if we need a break, we can go for a break. We can just use thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
Pinky's a thumbs up and
Okay.
a thumbs up.
Okay, perfect. So if that is the case, then what I'll do is I'll take over the screen sharing.
Okay. Also, while I am doing that, stop share. Are there any questions from the SMEs? I know that was a lot of information we kind of just threw at you in like 15 minutes. So are there any questions? And maybe it might become more apparent when Stephanie does her actual high level demonstration. But I just wanted to put it out there to Alana, to Anne, to Pinky. Any questions at this point?
It's Alana. I do have one question, and you probably will answer it. When we get those referrals from the internal sources, if say they get rejected, will that be an automatic like system, or will there be something I have to fill out like that template that you showed me where I know it was an example one, but will it automatically get sent to those referral sources, or will it be like something I have to fill out and do?
It was something that you have to fill out and do. So hence that's why I made that sample with the auto text. So if you find that you need to write a rejection letter and you have this perfect template that you want to use, you could create it as an auto text. And then whenever you hit that reject referral button, order, sorry, and you enter that, you could immediately go into the patient's chart and document it. So it's just quick, just bam, bam, bam. So it's more just for ease and speed.
Got it. And so when those come in and those referrals are coming in, and they're even being faxed from other locations that are not Cerner based, will that fax back to them from there?
The automatic fax back, no, it will not. So you'll have to fax whatever back to the referring person, whether it be provider or mistakenly a nurse practitioner or something like that. So that is something that you will have to fax back.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And also to note too, Alana, because an encounter was created for those external referrals, you can still document in that patient's chart. There will be an electronic chart per se for that external referral where you could decline them.
Right, perfect. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, we will go through the end-to-end workflow. I did do a very simple flow sheet of how this might look like for your clinic. Right now, we are in the process of creating all these things within our building domain so that we can hopefully in their next meeting, we'll be able to show you actually what we built for the clinic. But for today, I'm going to go through these step by step with a clinic that has been live already. So for this demo, I am using just a St. Paul's one, just to give you an idea of how it looks like. So the first step is to receive the referral. And I'll show you how the referrals usually look like. And then once that's done, Anne will go and be able to kind of process it and create the encounter. And also kind of basically what we in paper world create that file. And then you'll be able to accept or reject the referral. Plus, and if it's rejecting the referral, you can use the note method to note down why it's rejected, and also to use that to communicate to the referring provider. Excuse me. And then if it is accepted, it will go back to Anne, and Anne will be able to schedule the appointment for you. Or you'll be able to provide information to help, and Anne can help schedule the appointments into the ambulatory organizer. And there will be a appointment confirmation with the patient. There will be reminder pieces, and then once it is the day of, there will be a check-in and registration process, depending on if it is Zoom or in person. This process will look slightly different, or the order of things done may look slightly different. Otherwise, you can go right ahead into patient chart review, assessment and documentation, and then also follow-up and patient departure, which will involve that follow-up order we showed earlier. All right, so in terms of receiving the referral, like we said earlier, there will be two methods, external or internal. Internal is anything that is received through Cerner. External is anything that receives through a fax program, which will be called Work Queue Monitor. This is something that all clerical staff will be monitoring, and also helping with creating the encounter when a fax referral has been received. All right, so I'm going to go into the system. Let's say I need to send a referral over to this particular patient, and let's say this patient is already in Cerner, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this is going to look like. All right. So this is, it'll be referral to your program name, but I'm using outpatient speech language pathologist as an example. The provider can provide scheduling priority if needed. However, it is something that you can also adjust if you have done your chart review. So let's say within 4 weeks. And then it will also have a location. Your location will be only one, so there wouldn't be a drop down like this. But for this reason, I'm just going to use Holy Family Hospital as an example. And then anything yellow in this box means it's mandatory. Anything white is not mandatory. So the only other mandatory field is reason for referral. And for this reason, I'm just going to say voice program test. Okay. And if it is a order that was not entered by the provider, they can also put in the requested provider as well too. And then interpretation, I'm just going to say no. And then once they sign, what that does is it goes into a queue. And then I'll just show you very quickly how that looks like. So this is more on Anne's side of things. And what happens is you're going to see your location specific to the voice program and also what type. So you'll see new and also follow-up appointments. And then also, and then this will be the order name, which is the one that we just put in earlier. There will be requested dates, which would be in priorities here, but most of them will be processed the same way for you to review. All right.
May I ask, sorry, may I ask a question, Selena?
Yeah, for sure.
When you have the order, so on the orders, I think we talked about the possibility of a prompt coming up that says there has to be a referral report attached. Is that?
Yes. So I'll give you an example of how that might look like.
Thank you.
So because I'm not in the physician account, so this might pop up, but don't worry. So this is what it's going to look like. So this is called a decision support window. And for the particular referral, which is noted here, there will be a section where you'll be able to write down, like, let's say, any of these information, for example. Also, you can also create basically what this all looks like. So this is the example. They can print it. You can even ask them, oh, can you please fill out, can you make sure that there are consult notes or something like that? And this would be how it looks like. And when they click OK, that's when the referral pops up.
Awesome.
So it will pop up before they have to sign the referral, basically.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can anyone put in a following order or only me?
The following order is only specific to the clinic. So they have to be in the clinic and in order, or the clinic or the in-clinic encounter to be able to do it.
Okay, perfect. So an ENT couldn't go in there and say, oh, actually, I want you to follow up with this patient?
No.
Okay, great.
And they should not. So yeah, so that is how what we call a reference text would work. And we can most definitely build that on top of the referral that you're going to get.
I have a quick question. It's Anne.
Sure.
So for booking, is it you're only going to be using Work Queue Monitor and PM Office?
For booking, it'll be scheduled appointment book and work queue monitor, and PM office.
But there's like no like future request list or anything where you can just complete the request for an appointment
There
and
is.
book directly. It's still moving it over from here into the scheduling appointment book.
No, you'll get the, sorry, this is Mike Pedamonte.
go ahead.
You'll get the order right in the appointment book in your request list there. I believe this is just a way of being able to see them here in PM office as well.
Okay, so they exist on both lists then?
They do.
And this is just to tell me if it's accepted or rejected.
Yeah, and this one here isn't your accept reject list. Actually, this is just your request list. This kind of mirrors what you're seeing in the appointment book. And there's
Oh,
another
okay.
there's a work list, I believe, that is your accept reject list. Over on the left, if you click the work list.
Sorry. There is a
Up top a bit, there's
Work
work
They're
list.
from the top.
and then
Oh, the referral encounter work
Yeah.
list.
there's this one. So this
Yeah.
is you can definitely access all of these through schedule appointment book.
Okay,
Just not the work list. Sorry, these work
Yeah,
lists
except for this
exist
one.
here. Yeah, but the request lists themselves are appointment book based.
okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right.
And the chat is clear stuff.
Okay,
There's no
perfect.
question.
All right, so the next step for referral management is to screen and triage. So when Anne kind of sees all these requests come in, she will be able to process it and put it into I guess, a virtual folder called Ready for Triage or Referral Triage List. And the clinicians will be able to, through Power Chart, screen for appropriateness and priority and urgency. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the SLP side. So this is your home page. Your home page will include a lot of different things. And then anything up top here are your functionalities and also things you can look into. So for SLPs, you can actually look into your schedule through ambulatory organizer, but if you need anything more in detail, you can go into schedule appointment book, but most of the time you should be able to get most of your information through here. All right, and then in terms of referral management, there is a direct link to referral management right here up top. So when you click on that, all you have to do is make sure you have your location. This will be saved for each time you use it, so you don't have to fill it in every time. The referral status, which would be ready for triage. So anything that would be put into that virtual folder would be in here. Making sure that you do click on the medical service as speech language pathology. But if for your specific clinic or location, we might not need to even do that. And don't worry about the tumor group and triaging priority at this time. If you want to see everything, it will be nice to kind of keep these open as well as the attending provider. So let's say if I run this again, right now, it shows that there are 2 people in your referral management list. These are the 2 that you would need to triage. So for example, I'm going to go into this one and you just have to, don't worry about this part. First of all, assign yourself as a relationship. So every time you click on a new patient chart, you do have to assign a relationship. And for this purpose, it'll be SLP. Okay, and then through here, you're going to be able to review the patient chart. There are several what we call summary pages: rehab summary, allied health summary, and mental health summary. We believe that the most suitable one for SLPs to use would be the allied health summary. And the allied health summary is basically a catch-all area for you to review anything that may be beneficial for you to review as a referral. So what that means is there are diagnoses and problems, there are histories, Yeah, there wouldn't be any orders per se, but there might be some. And also there would be some that are, for example, anything diagnostic related. And then more importantly, you'll see the documents, which is most likely where all the physicians will be documenting and putting their consult notes into. You do notice that there's a lot of things that may be a bit more applicable to inpatients. So if you're, for example, lines, tubes, and drains. If you need to move them around, you can always just click and drag and you can just move them. And then if you want, documents are very important. I want it up top so it's easier for me to see. You can move it up. So that is your kind of one-stop shop for patient review. However, if you want to say, this is too high level, or I want to go into deeper things for certain things, there are various different functions, including you actually can go into the documentation. There is one specific, and there will be, like, for example, a referral package. You can see what they mentioned for the referral. So, for example, this would be from the WorkQ monitor, and you'll be able to see it.
It's Alana, quick question. So the referral package, when they say they fax in their referral,
Yes.
most of them, they're not filling out anything, they're just faxing it in, the majority of the ENTs from around BC. So when that fax comes in, it'll go automatically into the referral package here, or from the triaging while I have to put it in there?
No, so Anne will have to index what type of fax it is. So that will be something you can discuss with Anne as to what to call it. If it's a referral form, most of them will be called a referral package, or even if it's just a consult note, you can also call it referral package. So
Okay.
these will be all indexed on Anne's side of things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and then in this documentation section, it will actually show all the documentation not specific to any encounter. So let's say if the patient has went to the ED a couple weeks ago, or they had another visit with another specialist that is on Cerner, they will show on here as well too. And then if you want to see anything further for example, labs and diagnostics, there will be a results review section for you to review. There will be things that are more specific to was done at particular encounters, that, for example, inpatient encounters. And then there's also things that are a little bit more broad, for example, extended, which is basically external, provincial, and then also diagnostics if that is needed as well too. Right. So there will be a lot here, and then there will be, we can go a little bit further when we are doing the workflow review as to what do all these different ones do and see and all that stuff as well too. All the different sections you can also look into. So for example, if they want to know about anything related to social history and it was documented previously, they will be here. Any family procedures and implant history will also be here if they are documented in other encounters. Right. So through that, what happens is, okay, you have looked through it. This patient seems appropriate. What you can do is then accept the order. So I'm just going to use a different one as an example to show you the accept order. So when you go through, you can go to orders. And then you can, once you find the accept order for your particular clinic, I'm just going to use an example, a pre-made clinic. And once you do that, you can fill in any of these information. So you can have scheduling priority. You can let Anne know how far ahead they need to book. Appointment requested there will be only one. It'll be basically a new appointment. visit modality, you can also specify if it's Zoom, in-person, phone, or whatnot. And then this reason for visit will be something you can rewrite to make sure that it is reflecting what this patient was referred for. And once you do that, all you have to do is click sign, and that will show and let Anne know that you have accepted the referral, and she can start booking for the appointments.
I have a question. Are we able to modify the scheduling priority instead of weeks in terms of our priority intervention criteria?
Yes. So there is a I need to look into where you can do it per se, but you can have a triaging priority, and you can put 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, I in the past when we've had like the date times, it kind of like flashes at us for a long time if we haven't done it. So I'm reticent to use the like within a couple of weeks, because that might not happen, and then they're sitting there flashing at us. Is that something that will happen with this as well?
I don't believe this flashes.
No.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Do you know what I'm
There's no
talking about?
flashing notifications this time around.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, I only
Yeah.
compare. It was always like such a so stressful. But oh no, these patients haven't been seen, and it says
Yeah, it's like,
urgent.
you're late.
I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You
Great.
don't need
Thank
to
you.
be reminded every day that you're late, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, so you can use triaging priority. You can also use the dates as well too, the times as well. But I believe because that one is a yellow section, you do have to fill it out, but it won't like prompt you every day. Okay. All right. So I did go through the accept or reject referral. You can add, you can put in accept or reject, and also you can leave it and let the clerical staff know, saying that there's missing information, and we can just leave it until the information has come back. I won't go too far into the details about scheduling appointments. That will be covered in the scheduling sessions. And that will be mostly just kind of creating, setting encounters, and also booking in terms of the resource names and whatnot. So I will actually skip this part, but just do keep in mind that if there is an interpreter required, this is kind of where the we will need to indicate and also to be booked. All right, and then you can, when you confirm appointment, you can have, appointment summary details that could be included within the system to provide to the patient, saying like, what do you have to do prior to the appointment? And also, if there is any need to print that off and send it off, you can also print that off, and you print it off, you can email, you can mail, any of those options are available for you to provide information to the patient. All right, so when the patient arrives in person, they will be seeing Anne first, and Anne will be able to check in that patient. And what that means is basically, in Cerner terms, we are flipping from pre-outpatient encounter to an outpatient. And that kind of brings into how the scheduling works. And also, it will also flip any appointment from confirmed to check in. And this will also be the time where clerical staff can confirm demographics details and ID if needed. So, and this is also when the encounter goes from a pre-encounter to now an active encounter. So I'm not going to go in too far details of how that looks like in the schedule appointment side, but I can just give you a quick look of how that might look like. So you're going to have to select the bookshelf, And then you are going to see the SLP one. And there wouldn't be that many because there's quite a few people here. So you see here, I put it into this slot. Anything here means this patient has been checked in, so green. Blue meaning it has been confirmed and reminder call has been made. If not, if that is available. And also all these the names will also be showing. Okay. On the SLP side, you can also see this all through the ambulatory organizer. So you can access the ambulatory organizer here. And then for the first time you set up this ambulatory organizer, you do have to find your resource group or resource. And that's something that our ambulatory team will be building for you. And you will have basically an ambulatory and scheduling team will be building this for you. And they will be telling you what this will be named. So for demo purposes, we are using Holy Family Hospital. And you can see that there are, for example, 2 appointments. The first one says that the patient has already checked in. The location, and also if you need to, you can actually determine if you need rooms or not. And the sticky note function that I mentioned earlier is right here. So you see how there's like a little dotted box with a plus. You can add a comment, and when you add the comment, you'll become like a post-it note with a paperclip. So then that way, everyone knows that there is a note here. And it'll also say who wrote the note and what the note is right here. Okay, so some people have used this to, for example, communicate email address to make it a bit more forward-facing for Zoom calls, phone numbers, or if there's no-shows or late appointments, that would be something that would be helpful to use this as a function. And how it's used is really dependent on the clinic.
Hi, it's Alana. Sorry, I had a urgent call come in for a quick second there. Was this this isn't seen by outside of the clinic, is it? Like, can anybody see this?
What do you mean by this? Like the appointments?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyone who can find you in ambulatory organizer can technically see it. And also, let's say if this patient is in another, I'm just going to go click in for this reason. Let's say if this patient is referred to you and also referred to, for example, the dietitian. And there is a appointment section which shows all the patient's appointments as well too. However, most people won't really touch this unless it's within your clinic.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sometimes
Yeah.
I get like questions from other speech pathologists around the health authority saying, oh, like you've seen this patient. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, where did you find this information? How do you know this already? This makes, I guess they probably have it in PCIS maybe currently.
Potentially, I'm not too familiar with the PCIS side of things, but yes, this one you do technically are able to see everyone else's appointments if you do need to. But it is just common practice that we just work with the clinic that we do. All right. Yeah, and then that is how it looks like for the ambulatory organizer side. And then you'll be able to do what you need to do with the patient in terms of assessments and documentation. So I'm just going to go into I went to the chart. So this is the person that you're going to see, for example, and you did the review and you also did the assessment, and you go like, okay, I'm ready to do the charting and documentation. You go into the documentation section. And then when you click add, if you go into the position, there will be the speech language pathology note. You can click on that. And I believe for you, we do highly recommend your own templates. So when you click into the free text note, you can create your own templates. And all you have to do is create your own shortcut. So most people will have some sort of comma, period, something you don't type right away so that it won't automatically trigger a template when you don't want to. So I'm just gonna use a sample. Let's see. Let me see if there's any.
Steph, it's Vince. Did you want to use the one that I created or?
Sure. So just to show, this is documentation, but it's not so much rejecting referral. But
Yeah, but it's just an example, comma,
Okay.
voice.
So voice rejection letter, and then you just click OK, and then your template will show up. Like what Vince said, you can do drop downs, and then you can remind yourself where to put in certain things, or if there is any doctors' names that are pre-filled, these will be able to be pre-filled as well. Okay.
Awesome. Hi, it's Elena. You said that I'm good at this, but I actually don't know how to make these. Is there somebody?
Oh, no, don't worry.
Okay.
What I mean is, like, I noticed that you created all your own templates for your clinic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so then it does seem like you have a good awareness of what you need to document.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
And don't worry, I will help you step by step to
Amazing.
go through and how to
Okay.
make this. Not a
Okay, thank
problem.
you.
Vince and I will most definitely show how to do it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't worry.
we'll help you. We won't throw you to
Yeah.
the wolves.
No, we won't. Yeah, but that's kind of how to create one. And also you can fill in, and the beauty of creating your own templates is you can adjust it whenever you need to. Rather than if it's created by us or CST, then there'll be that limitation of, oh, I want to change something. It's going to be hard to change because you have to put in a request every time. So there are pros and cons, and with the flexibility, making your own templates would be a bit more beneficial. Right. So let's say if you've done this and say like, okay, I'm just going to put in, let's say this, I'm done and this is all, my note is ready. You click sign and submit. And through here, you have make sure you put in the title of the note. So voice program test note. And then the type is a drop down. And this is the way that people can use to filter and find your documentation. And the title would be a bit more flexible, and you can put whatever you need. Let's say if you want to send this letter to a provider that is within Cerner, you can find their name here. So for example, Dr. Alex Test can be one that you can add on. And once you add it on, it'll go into here. You don't need them to sign, but more so just a review or a CC. And then once you're ready, you just go sign, and then you have to click refresh. Refresh button is your best friend for anything. And once you refresh, you can see that there will be a new note here.
And sorry, Selena, will they always be a note? Like, will other than the subject I can change and make it report, but will the type always be speech language pathology note?
For now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There may be some new note types in the future, but right now the best one would be the speech language pathology note. Okay, and then for that, you can put in voice program test note, then you'll be able to see it. And then, yeah, and then once that is done, I will go over to the last slide. And this is the follow-up and patient departure. So you've seen this patient and you want to say, oh, I want to see this patient in X amount of months. and I want to let Anne know about it. So what you could do is within here, you can go back to orders, click add, and you go follow up. I'm just going to use this one, follow up clinic speech language pathology. You don't need it, a co-signature, because this is it'll be its own clinic. And then you'll be able to check out which visit modality, scheduling priority again, and also appointment requested would be basically a speech follow-up. These won't be applicable to you. You'll have a different set of drop downs that will be available for you. And then once you're done, you can click sign. Oh, sorry, and you, for scheduling priority, if you don't want dates, you can go ask for special instructions, and then you can put in priority 2, for example. Visit modality, we could do Zoom this time, for example. And then once you click sign, this will go in, and we'll be able to see that follow-up request.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
For those follow-up orders, do I then have to go into PowerChart and check every patient to
No.
see if there's a follow-up? Where does that go then?
It will actually, Michael, do you want me to show that?
Yeah, those go to your scheduling request list. So if you click on, the request list icon, it's actually going to be the same place that those referral to orders will show up.
I think for this one was ambulatory OPD. It might take a little time. So you
And
see
you
how
can
there's
see
a
that,
follow-up,
Oh, okay.
and then the
And so
news would be like new like this.
Yep. And any of these columns, we'll get into this with the scheduling, but any of these columns can be sorted so that you can group them together and book directly from this list.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
I also had a question. When you scroll down, when you did that drop down menu and you had a list of all those clinics, is Anne gonna just have a list of like her clinics, or is that same whole list?
Just her clinic.
Okay, perfect.
For this purpose, the clinic orders will need to be built for validation, and so right now the St. Paul's one has drop downs where you probably don't see, for example.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. All right. And yeah, that is ultimately the high level end-to-end process. And right now it is about 9:06. How's everyone feeling? Do you guys all want a bit of a 10-minute break?
Actually, I could really use one. I have a patient that just keeps calling me, so I should.
Yeah, for
probably
sure.
call them back.
Why don't we take a 10-minute break? We'll come back around 9:16-ish, 17. And then we'll finish off and also answer any questions that you guys have. All right,
Perfect. Yeah.
see you guys later.
Perfect. So we'll just give it another minute until everyone's here. Okay, let's check the time. It's 9:18. I just want to check Pinky, Anne, and Alana. Are you on the line?
I'm here, it's Alana.
Oh,
I'm
perfect.
here.
Yeah,
That was
I'm
Pinky,
here.
and that was Anne. Perfect. Okay, so we'll just continue. So thank you for that break. I'm just getting my first coffee of the morning. Um, so it's gonna be waking up a bit more now. Steph, did you want me to present? Sorry.
I'm back. Sorry, I can do it. I'll just
Okay, sure.
turn on my video.
Okay, sure. But before
Hi,
we go
Vince,
on,
did you turn the recording back on?
it says here recording. Yes, on my end.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect, perfect,
Okay.
thanks.
No problem. Before we go on to chart management, this is more of a question or a clarification to the SMEs. So this is Pinky, Alana, and Anne. When we say internal versus external referral, I think Stephanie made it very clear that externals are from non-Cerner facilities and internals are from Cerner live facilities. The emphasis is on live. So right now, Richmond, if you were to get a referral from Richmond or GF Strong or UBC at this time, they would still be external referrals. Also to note, there are instances of Cerner that are being used around the province, but our instances don't communicate with each other. So I believe it's being used in Northern Health and Island Health. They are not able to send an internal referral. They would have, for some reason, if they wanted to see you in your clinic, they would have to fax an referral, and that would be external. So just wanted to make that clear. The second point that I wanted to note, just because we kind of throw terms around, and then sometimes we get mixed up as to who has experience in Cerner or not. So to Anne, Pinky, and Alana, do all of you understand what the term encounters mean?
I do, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I think I know what it means," or "Not sure." Okay, perfect. Okay,
I'm a little new to this side of the world, so I just like you said, I kind of know, but I don't
kind
really
of know.
know.
But you don't really know, like,
Exactly.
oh, I could use a little bit more clarification. Yeah.
Yes.
So an encounter is essentially an interaction with a patient. So let's say a patient comes in to the hospital for inpatient. That would be one type of encounter is inpatient. So you had that blue chart. Let's say this is the blue chart. They come in and that chart follows them throughout their inpatient hospital stay. So when a patient comes into, let's say, the Provincial Voice program, they would have what we call an outpatient encounter. And that's where everyone would document what the interactions with the patients there. The referral encounter that we were describing, that's what Anne will be creating. So when a fax comes in, they'll create that referral encounter and set it ready for triage. And then they just move the encounter types through the patient's journey. So you could, Anne is able to change that referral encounter to a pre-outpatient encounter where the patient hasn't been seen. And when the patient arrives at the clinic, and then she could flip it. And that's what Stephanie meant on that slide. She'll flip it to an outpatient encounter. So when Alana does her interaction, she does her documentation at midnight that day, it will automatically discharge. So there's nothing that Anne needs to do on her side. So think of it like a patient interaction. Did that make sense, Pinky?
Yeah. So how many encounters, sorry, was that like 2 that Anne would kind of enter into the system?
Well, she would start off with the referral encounter if it was an external referral. So she would create that referral encounter and then she could attach those documents to that referral encounter and set it ready for triage. Then Alana would come in, write that accept reject order, and let's say she accepts, and then it goes back to Pinky, and then she'll flip it to a pre-outpatient encounter. So it's basically just a drop-down menu saying, hey, it's not a referral encounter. And then she's updating it, I should say, updating it to a pre-outpatient encounter. And that pre-outpatient encounter stays there until the patient comes into the clinic. Then once she checks, when Anne, oh, sorry, I'll be more specific. Once Anne checks the patient in, then it becomes an outpatient encounter. And then that's where Alana will document all her patient interactions. And then after the patient leaves, it will automatically discharge and move to a discharge encounter. So it goes through the progression that way.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Vince, you might cover this. If I don't get to charting that day and the encounter is released or discharged at midnight, can I retroactively still go back in?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Yes.
And that's actually quite common as well. So let's say you had a patient that came in, you saw them, went home. And just like that experience that you had 10 minutes ago where patients calling you like, oh, I'm having a problem of X, Y, and Z. and you want to document on that patient, like, oh, patient called me, you can actually go into the most relevant encounter or their last encounter, whatever is most relevant for your interaction, and document there as well. So you don't need to run to hand like, oh, please send me or please create an encounter for this. Like, no, you have the ability to retroactively do it. And that's actually what we encourage as well. Like if there's in between appointments is what we call it, you could document in the most relevant encounter.
That's
So
awesome.
there's always options for you to document stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone had that understanding in their head before we went on, because I just don't want to assume anything, and then once we get to go live, we're like, oh, what did that mean? What did I agree to that? Or what this? So let's just this is what the design session's for, is to really answer any questions, and let's get that clarification before you put that final stamp of approval that this will work for our clinic. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that, because those are the questions that came up in my previous designs for completely different clinics. So I thought maybe these are quite relevant conversations, relevant questions, and these are coming up quite often. So I thought maybe I'd bring that out there. Okay, perfect. So we'll move on to chart management. So chart management, we like to say that Cerner is paper light, not paperless, because there are still some things that may or may not be on paper. For example, the thing that pops into my mind right immediately is consents. If you need any time, you need a patient to write a consent or sign a consent, it needs to be done on paper. If you need a wet signature, it has to be done on paper. Then it goes into the patient's chartlet. And this is what will be housed in your clinic. Now, once the patient has been discharged from your clinic, we have several options for you for paper management. So option number one is HIM department scanning. So the HIM department at VGH, once you break down the chartlet and send it through your local process or however you do it, it gets down to HIM, and they manually scan it into the patient's chart. So all those paper documents you will be able to view in Cerner at a certain time. So what we call turnaround time, it says here 24 hours upon receipt at health records. And I did confirm that with our team here, our site informatics. But that's for VGH. So that turnaround time could be different for anywhere else. When I helped Holy Family, I think it was 72 hours once they received that HIM, just for logistics or whatever. So each health authority is different. For voice program, I was told 24 hours. And like I said, they will all be scanned into the document. All the documents will be scanned into Cerner, and then those documents are shredded after 3 months. So that's one way of doing it. And depending on your clinic needs, there's also another option called department scanning, where the clerk or whoever, usually the clerk, can scan documents into the patient's chart using WorkQueue Monitor. So basically, it's basically faxing to yourself. But there's a process to it. So you have to manually associate the documents to the chart. And then you also have to send the paper for HIM for auditing, storage, retention, as per hospital policy. And again, any documents that are sent to the HIM department are shredded after 3 months. Now, to note, and I totally forgot my previous sessions to say this, you don't need to print and scan things that have already been scanned to the system. So let's say you receive a referral package, and that is technically paper, and I'm using that in air quotations. You don't need to print that and then put it in the chartlet and then scan it back in. It's already in there, right? So anything that's only produced during the patient interaction. So anything during patient care. So I just wanted to make that note. Given the volume of your patients, I don't know. Let me just ask you a question to Alana and Pinky. Your thoughts about this?
I'm kind of confused about the idea of a chartlet. I don't like what would go into that then?
Okay, so, and I'll say just this, typically, I've seen face sheets go into that. Sometimes there are written pieces of documentation that aren't built in Cerner that we couldn't build due to time constraints. Remember that must-haves and nice-to-haves. Some of them, like we have a component called FormFast, which is basically an electronic filing cabinet. So let's say Alana needs to do some kind of standardized assessment that is not built in Cerner. She would actually go to FormFast, print it out, and it has all of the patient's demographics already on it. And she would fill that out and chart on that, goes into the patient's chartlet and reside in your clinic. When the patient is discharged, that clinic, however it happens in your clinic, gets dismantled and that gets sent to HIM department. So a chartlet basically is just a folder, a binder. And it's usually like a really thin one to house any paper documents, if any, and
Okay, so technically we still have charts then that live here. They just might not have absolutely everything inside of them.
correct, yes. Because a lot,
Also,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
The other question is with scanning documents in,
Mhm.
could I not just scan them directly into PowerChart, like in the notes or the documentation section?
So I believe, and I'm not as familiar with scanning it, but I do know that you have to associate the documents to the chart. And so when you do scan it and you put it in, it actually goes into the working monitor. And I believe, because I haven't done it in a while, you have to associate it to a certain document, to a certain patient's chart. So it's not like you can just pop in the paper, scans it right into the chart. You actually have to associate it. So there's a bit
I
of a step to it.
Yeah, and I can also step in on that because I know Anne is also part of the neurotology clinic. You guys do have a single doc scanner for the neurotology clinic. So for that reason, you when you do scan things for for Sine and Lee, what happens is that goes straight into the chart through single doc scanning. However, for the for Provincial Voice, right
Yeah.
now we are trying to figure out, like, do you guys need and it doesn't sound like you guys need a single doc scanner because you don't need to get someone to interpret or put the results in right away, and all the notes and documentation and assessment details would be through Alana's side of things. So that's why we did not offer the single doc scanner option for you guys.
Okay, so
If that
then with
makes sense.
that, like if Alana has notes that she brings out after that need to be sent to the ENT who referred the patient, would that be something Alana does, or is that I'm still faxing?
For that reason, depending on the ENT. So if it is a VGH ENT or a PHC ENT, then Alana can do it directly through that CC method that I showed her
Mhm.
earlier. However, if it's like Northern Health, BHA, Interior Health, then it will require faxing.
Okay,
And I will say, it's Alana, I will say a lot of the ENTs are private clinics as well. So I believe a lot of them will still be that external faxing. In terms of the document scanning, I try my best to just chart as I go so that I'm not using lots of paper, because my what's the name? The Health Act. That thing, the Health Act, you know that one? For speech pathology, we do have to keep our documents pretty specific. So we have to like keep any handwritten notes and things like that, which would go in the chartlet. But I try to not do that so that I just document all in one place, and then I don't have a need for those chartlets. There might be occasionally things that I want to put in there. Like if I get, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there might be a need for it. I can see the possibility of some things having to go in there, like if they filled something out, or if if I got some collateral information later on that I'd want to put in there that's not in my chart, I might want to put those in the chartlet.
That's good to know, Alana. And also one thing I also like to say to the clinics too during design is how quickly does somebody else need to see that documentation? If it could wait 24 hours, I mean, the ideal is HIM department scanning, because that really decreases the workload on the clinic, because really the department scanning, or even if the single doc scanning, that's really pushed onto the clerk. So the recommendation is HIM, which is the kind of enterprise kind of workflow for this. But if that information can wait maybe 24 or 48 hours or so, recommendation is the HIM department scanning. But if it's something that needs to be seen right away, for example, one of the clinics that I had to design for was a eye care center where these external machines were producing data on paper, and the optometrist needed to see it right away. ophthalmologist see it right away, then the clerk would have to scan it so they could see it in the patient's chart. So that was one example of how you would differentiate between the two. If it could wait, I do recommend HIM department, or we recommend the enterprise solution of HIM. But I just want to let you know that there is an option for department scanning as well.
Okay, yeah, I can't see anything being urgent enough that we would have to do that. And if it reduces the workflow for the clerk, that's that's ideal. Yeah.
And did you have any questions more about that? Because I
Yeah.
know.
How do you send the chartlet to HIM? How does that work?
That's per local process. So what I've seen in other places, and I'm just going to use Holy Family because that was very vivid in my mind. The clerk dismantles the inpatient chart, and it just goes to the, I guess they have this pile or this outbox, and then someone comes around every so often, I think once every day or every 2 days, and they just bring it to health records. Is that how it happens right now with your paper? Does someone just come around, or do you send it by interdepartment mail?
There's nothing I believe I send. I
Yeah,
don't
Okay.
I
know.
think they use single doc scanning for neurotology. I believe for VGH clinics, it is basically a tray, and HIN comes and picks it up every day, kind of thing.
Okay.
It's
And I think
usually a
that's something,
process that's outside of us. Yeah.
yeah, I think, and that's something that we'd have to talk to Laura about. I think with this clinic, it might go to Iron Mountain just because we heard that Health Records hasn't been taking in new clinics for the past like 8 years. So I think it goes to Iron Mountain.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? Just gonna look in the chat. Doesn't see anything. Okay. So next slide, please. So this is the forms crosswalk. So this is more directed towards Alana. So the forms that we received, I actually crosswalked them in Cerner and got reviewed by Stephanie as well. And next slide, please. The forms that we received are these 6 ones. And thank you for only sending 6 as opposed to some of the other ones where they send dozens and dozens and dozens. And we're just going to go through each one of them individually. So the PVCRP consult request form. So what we heard is that this is a consult or request for informal communication between SLPs in the province. It's only for adult patients and isn't part of the patient legals chart. It's also consults are completed when the workload allows. Did I get that right, Alana? That's what I
Yeah.
heard. Okay.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead.
It's not really it's not really something I fill out. It's something that the other SLPs
Yeah.
fill out. And it's a way to kind of document how many of these consult requests I'm getting.
Okay, so our recommendation is to stay on paper outside of Cerner because you're not going to have a chart to document if it's something with their patients. Let's see, in
Yeah.
Prince George, I'm like, we're not going to create encounters for these Prince George patients, right? It's just something that's informal.
Perfect.
So the recommendation is stay on paper outside of Cerner, manage it how you did pre-Cerner. Any other thoughts on that, Alana? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think I just have a file, like a hard copy file of them that I print out and keep in my file cabinet here.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Good. So that's a recommendation. Okay. Next slide. The PVCRP DARP. So what we heard is the clinic note template or a DARP, and it's a free text documentation. What I didn't know is what is GRABS? And I think I kind of gleaned it from another document, but I just wanted to ask you, Alana, about it.
Yeah, it's a perceptual analysis for voice. I use it predominantly because the ENTs really, really like it, and it's easy. It's just a 4-point rating scale. And it's just a quick way for me to make sure that my follow-up documents always have some kind of reassessment in them, which we legally need to have included. So it's just a really simple way to do that.
Okay, so we thought that maybe we could add that, make a personalized template and put GRBAS, and you could just tab through those sections, fill in the blanks or whatever number, and then that would go into the existing template. So we would kind of leverage something and make it personalized for you. And your thoughts around that?
I think that's great. And I think actually you mentioning that you're not totally sure what it means that I should probably not have it as just the GERBIS. I should probably put just a little splash of what it is, like I have in the other document,
Mhm.
just in case somebody's only opening that they know
Mhm.
what they're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that could be gleaned through the auto text as well. Like, remember how I was doing that? So
Yeah.
if you have this soap note, you could just add that little auto text that you're going to see every single time. And
Mhm.
then once you fire that auto text in a dynamic documentation, you could just tab through or click through on your screen and quickly enter things.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. One thing to note, and I've seen this in all of your documents, you see the number 5 there on the screen where it has your name, who you are. That actually automatically gets populated when you're actually in Cerner. So
Yeah.
you don't need to keep doing it over and over.
Perfect.
Doing
Yeah.
all this.
I put that on the template just so I don't have to write it out every time. I just sign it. But yeah, if I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, that doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And it will be an electronic signature, so it's not like something that you have to print, sign, and then rescan back in. The electronic signature is you because you are the one who access the system.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Next slide. So this is what we think we know for this fax. We thought that it's information for the referring provider. And what we need to know is, what is this document used for? Is it almost like a decline letter, or is it more informational?
This is informational. This might be actually where we pull some of this from to put that thing that pops up when they're doing a referral.
Yes, the reference text.
Yeah, the reference text, because this is just kind of that. It's actually similar to that one that you pulled up with the dietitian one, where it's like, what is it? Where is it? What's going on?
Okay.
So it's just that quick information. Also, that it has that note at the bottom that this is different than Dr. Who's clinic, because I very frequently get referrals for her clinic by accident. So just to have that, yeah, this was just information for that.
And Alana, this is April. If we create reference text, just keep in mind there's certain criteria that is approved by the CST project as to what would go into the reference text. So we could probably pull some of this information and kind of, work together on making sure that we meet the standards, but just so you know, it won't be exactly what we see here.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, whatever
Okay.
you really need.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, April. That actually triggered me to say something to Alana as well. When we were creating these these reference tracks, and April, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
It's the text. It's not like a Word document where you can insert pictures and diagrams and tables.
Right.
Yeah, it's very simple. So it's very Word based. So don't think of it as Microsoft Word. Think of it as that other one that on your toolbar where it's just really basic. So just for you to be aware, it's not an elaborate tool. It's very simple. So if it's something like this, I think, April, this looks pretty simple, right? That's like
Yeah, it
straightforward.
does. And we can kind of add or take away a few things, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you said it's informational, then the recommendations are incorrect. So what I'm hearing is the recommendation is that some of this information, and we'll work with you on this, to add that to the reference text on the orders.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Next slide, please. The follow-up form. So what we heard, the form is completed by clinicians to notify and with the unit and of follow-up appointments. It's going to capture length, appointment length, free text instructions, and no-shows. And so what Stephanie had shown you during the demo about the follow-up order, we mapped out a lot of this can be done in that order. And I just wanted to get your eyes on this just to make sure that everything is there. For the no-shows, it'd be a bit of a different workflow, but it will still be captured within Cerner. But I just wanted to get your eyes because we want to say, hey, this is the follow-up form. What we recommend is the follow-up order. And so it will eliminate the need for this paper form altogether.
Great. Yeah. And I saw that when she was putting that in there. Yeah. And then I know we're going to talk about the discharged patient. The no follow-up is like, it just basically nothing happens. And then the no-show one, well, I'm guessing we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Yes, and I know there's a whole workflow for it, and I'm not the best versed in it, so I don't. It exists, and we could show that to you during the validation session. But I just wanted to put that out there that it doesn't need to be the patient. So there's actual workflow for it, and it gets captured in Cerner.
Sounds good.
Okay. So next slide, please. Oh, so this is the video strobe assessment form. So what we heard is this, you're just using this for reference, right? So you'll document after the procedures and it's used as a cheat sheet. So it's not really a legal document.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The way of
So
organizing my notes.
you organize your thoughts, totally get it. You're doing this procedure, need to take notes, quick notes, check, 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 check. So our recommendation, if it's just a cheat sheet and it's not a legal document, to stay on paper outside of Cerner. Then you'll take that paper when you have time, when your documentation time, you'll go in and you'll document whatever, blah, 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 blah. So you'll just use this basically as a cheat sheet as you're documenting.
Yes, and this might be one that I put in the chartlet because it is, if it is handwritten and there's notes on it, just to have a reference copy. This might be one that eventually does have to go to the, is it HIM?
HIM, yeah. Health Information Management is what we call it. Yes.
Thanks.
It might be called different at something different in different authorities, but yeah, we just know it as HIM. Yeah. Okay. Okay, perfect. So this would be one example of something that needs to be used in a chartlet. So this is something that you might see.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to add the point where just thinking about this particular form, if you do want to put it into Iron Mountain or HIM, whatever that might be the plan, there are, if it's HIM and you do need certain things scanned, you can put the patient label on there, or you can also put a specific barcode and onto this piece of paper for allied health professions, and you'll be able to use that and also have it scanned into the chart as well if that's needed. So we can go over that process a little bit more in the validation session or even the workflow review piece.
Perfect. Sorry, I just have to make a note on that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have that one, and I think the last one, and I only have page 1 of the last one, is the report, assessment report, Master 2. So we didn't really discuss this during our requirements gathering, but so just getting it out there about what we need to know. Is this a summary of the patient's visit?
This is my report.
Oh, so it's your actual documentation.
Yes.
Okay, so this would have been your legal documentation. So
Yeah.
something like this. I didn't put any recommendations because I didn't know what was if it was reference or something like that. So and this is the one that you distribute to the ENTs, right?
Correct. Yeah, this goes to the referring physician and goes in their chart, and every patient gets one of these.
Oh, every patient. So this is prime example of something that I would use as an auto text, and with the spaces, and you have the referring doctor, you could have your grabus, and you could, this is where we would actually build notes in as well. So my recommendation or our recommendation then would be to have it as a local auto text. So you could actually modify it yourself as needed. If something funky, this new assessment comes down the pipe, you don't have to go through that whole process of getting it approved, getting approval from St. Paul's, blah blah blah. So this is something that we will work with you to create your own personal auto text. So that would be our recommendation.
Perfect. And there is a couple of things I've already added and changed to this, like the VHI, the voice handicap index. I've switched to the voice quality index. And so I usually end up just deleting these out of the template, but I just sent you the one that I have that I use.
Yeah, and that would you ever use? You said the quality versus the index. Would you ever use the index again?
I do if it's a patient who's had it before, so it's like a pre-test, post-test, and if the ENT has used it. So I will still have it, but I don't use it as a first measure just because I don't like the term. We just don't like how it's termed.
So this is an example of how we would use the drop-down menus. So if you want to use index, you would drop down to index. If you want to use quality, you would use quality. So just to think forward how we would kind of build these out when we meet with you and work with you about creating these auto texts. That's just something to think about.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So that would be the auto text for a recommendation. Okay, and I think that's the last one, Steph, for my slides.
All right, thank you very much. So just to recap, in terms of location validation, I did send this information to Alana for validation, and we just wanted to give you guys the information where the full description name is the VGH Provincial Voice Care Resource Program. That will show up in certain areas where, for example, the actual clinic name. And then there's also this display name, which is basically, if you remember, on the banner bars or places where there's a little bit of a limited space. Right now it is a 15 character limitation, will be VGH Prov Voice. And that will show up in the encounters. It will show up in, for example, relationship statuses and all those different sections as well too. All right, so just to give everyone a heads up on that. And then the next piece is some build questions related to ambulatory clinics. So in terms of the, let me actually share my screen a different way. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look into is within ambulatory organizer, you can actually specify rooms. So I'm just going to go into here and go into ambulatory organizer. You see how this is location not defined. There's no rooms built for outpatient Holy Family Hospital outpatient. But for here, you can choose to put in a specific room. So just going back to the presentation, you can indicate rooms or you can not indicate rooms, similar to what down there. If you do indicate rooms, it does be helpful if you know if there are more than one clinician, or maybe the patient needs to be seen in more than one room. However, this is a manual process for switching them around. So let's say if it's one appointment and you're just basically seeing that one patient in your office plus the room for the scope, then it's something that you probably don't want to go back to ambulatory organizer and change the room location just to say, oh, I'm at the scope room. Option 2 is if you go for no rooms. So basically when the patient goes through the process of the clinic on the day of, you don't need to have that extra step to indicate the patient where the patient is, if that's not necessary. But the only difference is, let's say if there are going to be multiple clinicians in the future, that could be something to think about. So just thinking about this particular clinic, we don't right now with one SLP and one clerk, indicating rooms might not be the most necessary thing, but just thinking ahead, would this be something that's required for this clinic?
Hi, it's Lana. I think, no, I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to do that. I don't foresee there being another clinician. I don't know where they would go. There's no space. So I don't think and it just seems like it's an extra step for Anne that is unnecessary.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just kind of put that aside. The second piece is on requisition manager versus IPPDF. So what this means is that any orders will create a requisition available to you or the clerk to print out to give the patient. And I guess the question for us is, for you guys is, do you guys print off any requisitions for the patients when they are referred to you guys?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I think we don't have to worry about this one. April, is that okay with you?
So what's going to happen is every clinic will receive IPPDF. Requisition manager is more so of a choice. And for this clinic, I wouldn't recommend that, but every clinic gets IPPDF. So like with referrals, those can automatically print through IPPDF. So that's the standard.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure, sorry, Solana, I'm not sure I know what those stand for or what they're
Oh, I'm
really.
sorry. So
I was like-
Lana, IPPDF is integrated print to PDF. So basically, it's a function where with a requisition, take for example, like the referral requisition, for example, it can automatically print whenever that order is placed. Just printing a piece of paper, basically.
Gotcha, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
And if we have it, but we don't need it, it won't just like start randomly printing pieces of paper. Sorry, this is a silly question.
Let me follow up on that because from my understanding, it's gonna print regardless.
Oh, what would it be printing?
So if you look at the con under option 2, requisition will still print even if you want to send a requisition as a PDF. That's just how it's set up. Do you all like handle many requisitions, like
Not any,
refers?
no,
Not
None
any
at
at all.
No,
no,
I don't think so, right?
I
So then
can't.
it wouldn't print anything then.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So Alana, I think what April was trying to say is, let's say you did a referral to a dietitian for thin or swelling assessment or something like that, and that you needed a paper requisition for that. You would enter that order in Cerner. The printer spits out automatically that referral or that requisition to see that dietitian, let's say in Kelowna. So that patient would then pick up that piece of paper, go to the dietitian. But if you're not doing medications, labs, or maybe the odd
Diagnostics.
referral,
Yeah.
diagnostics, it won't print out anything. So that's what April had meant, that if you
Yeah.
do order something, it will automatically print. If you don't order anything, it won't print out anything.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. I was like,
Thanks,
what's this putting
Viv.
out?
Yes,
What's it
we're
printing?
gonna print off blank pieces of paper.
No, we're not doing that.
All right, I think this is the next thing to think about. It is called a clinic flag. What a clinic flag means is that if a patient is in a particular clinic for whatever reason, or they wanted to let the rest of the encounters or any other clinics or inpatient know that they are following this patient, they can put a clinic flag into the patient's chart. And let's say if they go inpatient, well, I think the best one I can think of is the Healthy Heart Program. If they unfortunately had to go inpatient and they needed information, or they wanted to give the inpatient physician a heads up that they are part of the Healthy Heart Program, the clinic flag would be able to do that without the provider going into the encounters and looking at every single encounter and seeing if they need to, if anyone is following them. A lot of the times, clinics or areas that require just more of a consistent follow-up, for example, Healthy Heart Program, or even hemodialysis, would have something similar to this kind of clinic flag option. Most of the time, smaller clinics or clinics that don't see patients that regularly would most likely opt for no clinic flag, mainly because it is a manual process for you to put in the clinic flag for each of the patients. And it really also depends how many of your patients are going to be within Cerner, and also whether or not you need to let anyone know when a patient has been admitted to the hospital. So that's kind of what the clinic flag kind of does within Cerner. So what are your thoughts on this?
I like that you can have stats. I would be curious if that's something that Pinky and my manager David would want, because it's good information to know. And there's often questions of like how many active patients you have, how many going at once. That could be information that we can provide for PHSA when they're looking at the funding, but it being more onus on who would be entering it.
It will most likely be you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it could be, now I did,
Or
now
Anne as well too. Anne
it
can do
may
it
be
as
your
well?
clerk
Okay.
who would add the clinic flag.
Okay, then I would probably kind of defer to Pinky what you think. I think it could be helpful, but if you think it's unnecessary and just adds more workload, then
I was just wondering, do our other clinics have this option? Do you guys know?
There are some. So I know that the Healthy Heart Program is going to have it. Anything that requires a little bit more follow-up or requires some sort of group therapy program. And Vince, you can feel free to add on to that.
Okay, so clinic flags. So my experience for clinic flags is that second point under option 2 in the con, no alerts for patients being admitted to hospital. Some clinics like to be notified if their patient goes into the hospital. So one of the questions I always like to ask the clinicians at a clinic that we're designing for is, do you need to be notified if a patient goes into hospital? For example, one clinic that I helped design for was thrombosis, and they actively go from subcutaneous to oral anticoagulants to stopping anticoagulants. So if their patient went in for an unrelated procedure or surgery, they would want to know. So that physician can notify the other physician saying, hey, we stopped them on their Coumadin and we put them on heparin sub-Q or something like that, or they're on some kind of special authority. So that's kind of something that's how I think of the clinic flag as well, in addition to statistics. So if that's something that you need to know, it's just something to have in the back of your mind.
yeah, with that description, I don't think so. Not that I don't care if my patients are admitted, but we can always check to see if they, if they're in the ER, I can see where they are. If I'm opening their chart, like say they have an appointment, that would be the only time I'd be like, where are my patients? I don't really monitor them when they're not here. So I'm sure there are other ways we could be checking stats anyway. So maybe no clinic flags.
Yeah, so there's definitely a bunch of reports that will be built onto Cerner for Pinky and your clinic manager, David, to access. And what they can do is pull in all the referral information, active patients, and all that stuff is available for them.
Okay, then I don't think we need that then.
I agree.
Okay, perfect. So I will skip this piece. All right, message center. So basically, I believe most positions do have access to a function called message center, and it's basically an email or message service. They also have to-do tasks as well too, if you need it, within Cerner. So there are clinics or there are larger clinics, for example, clinics with physicians, nurses, and other allied health professions, which may use this as an internal communication within each other. Or let's say if the nurse saw a patient and wants to refer to social work within the clinic, they can also use this as an option. So in terms of message center, there are different ways to go around this, and ultimately it is a communication tool for all clinicians. And so just for you guys to think about is in terms of your communication method, I'll just point out one more thing is within Message Center, you can also save any note within a patient's chart. And that way it will directly save into the chart without you copy and pasting everything in. This is not really something that you need to decide now in terms of Message Center, but something to think about is how you guys want to use Message Center for the clinic, or how are you guys going to use email or phone, and kind of just noting some of these things down in a note at a certain time. So this is kind of a function that you can start thinking about for sure. So and I think because of that, there is a second thing. This is where you might want to think about is within Message Center, there is something called pools. Pools are basically your Microsoft Outlook group emails, and the difference between that and what you see on Outlook is that pools you send into this kind of shared inbox, and whoever opens it will basically mark it as read already. However, you will still be able to access these messages if needed. It won't just, the only difference is any messages sent to a pool, it will mark as read when someone reads it, basically. And a lot of these are created for clinics that require, let's say, more than one nurse or more than one allied health clinician of the same profession, where they kind of have to divvy up some of the workload. And that's kind of where Message Center pools comes in. Again, for your clinic, because it's 2 people, 1 clerk and 1 SLP, we personally don't feel like a Message Center pool would be beneficial to your clinic, but we do want to share this as an option and as a feature within Cerner for you guys to think about for sure.
And we don't have to make a decision now, right? But I do see this possibly being helpful if this program also expands into the TransCare program. If there's some crossover there, I think that might be something that would be helpful with them. But that isn't a sure thing yet. So is it possible to not decide now and then put it in later?
Yeah, and also just think about in terms of when it does expand to the other program, that is the pool for just yourself and 2 clinics, or is it more for multiple users in 1 clinic? So that's something to think about as well too.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
I'm going to encourage it to be its own separate entity if that's possible. So
yeah, and that might be a little bit easier too. You don't have to decide now. You can always create it after. It's usually just something we want everyone to think about in the clinic, so that you know what to expect. And there is that option. But for now, just thinking about the workflow for this particular clinic, we don't feel like this is very useful unless you want someone to message both you and Anne at the same time, basically.
no, I don't think that's needed.
Yeah, for sure. So just because you guys have very different roles in the clinic, it wouldn't make sense to put you guys in one pool, basically. Okay. With that in mind, so those are all the questions that we had in terms of ambulatory build. April, is there anything that I missed?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to recap. We went through a lot of stuff, and don't worry, we don't expect you to remember every single thing that we talked about. I don't think that's too realistic as well too. So we will go over most of these information again, but with the details that we have built specific to your clinic in our next session. So it'll be a lot more clear about like, oh, the clinic names or the follow-up orders and all that stuff. It will be a little bit even more smoother for you to view over. You guys will also have the opportunity to work with us for anything related to workflow. There will be time spent before go live to go through any of those. And we will go through all the functionalities that you will need and also help you with any templates and also processes specific to clinic at that time as well. And also, because of this, we don't expect any major changes that will require in the system for your clinic to go live into Cerner. I think the only thing that we wanted to add is just a reference text with your referral order and just a small basic building related to your location and all that stuff. All right, we will have we will kind of meet internally to make sure that we will have all the information and also all the follow-up items prepared and ready for you guys to review for the next session. And also thank you for responding, but I know we are emailing you in between for any just kind of time sensitive things, or also anything that we wanted to make sure we are prepared for any of these sessions. So we will probably continue to email you for any follow-up questions if we may have. And just to note down, there are 3 more sessions for this particular clinic. 2 of them are related to scheduling, and one of them will be an overall ambulatory session. The 2 scheduling would be March 6th and also April 11th. And then the workflow validation. So the following meeting with this would be March 28th. And I think all these days were confirmed prior to all this. And so these are just the dates listed out. All right, this is the end of all the materials we have prepared for this session. I just wanted to bring it out to everyone to see if there's any further questions.
I do have one. Thank you so much for all of this. I'm very excited to get this going here. Well, I have a question about when the patient is seen here, I fill out the report, and then that report needs to get sent to the referring physician. If they are not in Cerner, what that looks like. I saw on there that it said like I can CC certain physicians. Will that be open to all the providers across? Like, can we put in any provider information and like build in all of the ENTs that we frequently refer or are sending reports to? Is it possible to have them auto-populate, or is that something that we'll have to like pull and then I'll have to fact separately?
At this time, I want to say that it might be some sort of split workflow of you might see if you can find your ENTs in Cerner first. And if they're not available, then we do have to do the printout and fax method for those who are not in Cerner. So you might have to do kind of and then once you kind of get the hang of it, you'll know who's in Cerner and who's not in Cerner. And that will probably help with whether or not you need to know if you can directly send it to them or through fax.
Right, so that e-fax is only kind of the coming in, not going out?
It can go out as well too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just to add on to that, Steph, as well, you could also, if you find these physicians in Cerner, you could save them as a favorite. So you don't have to keep typing and searching their names. You could just do one click. I want this report to be sent to blank, the physician X or Dr. So-and-so, right? So that's another way to speed things up. Oh, good. So if Steph is just going to show you right here.
Perfect.
Yeah, and these are for the physicians on Cerner.
Okay, only the ones on Cerner. There's no way to like enter them and automatically do it. I'm just
Alana, can I get that? Can I take that back?
Yeah.
I've heard a few things, and because people say so many different things, I just want to make sure I have the correct information before I open my mouth.
Okay.
It is in the works. We just don't know the timeline when that is available.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to see if there's ways that I can make it a bit more streamlined so it's not as much on Anne. If as much as possible, if I can auto send it to those referring physicians. I mean, if that's possible.
I don't know if I can do it, but yeah. So let's say if I want to send it to Dr. Test, you can just put a star and it'll be on the side. And it'll be a lot easier for you to add on to it. And all you have to do is click the plus.
Great.
Yeah. We do not have a timeline, unfortunately, but there is a request for all allied health professions to be able to send notes to GPs or specialists, but we absolutely do not have a timeline that we can provide at this time.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from Anne or Mickey? Or Alana? All right. If there are no more questions, thank you very much, everyone, for spending the morning with us. And we hope this is helpful and useful for you guys. Please feel free to contact us if you do have any questions related to the clinic that we can help answer. If not, then we will see you in our next session.
Apologies, Stephanie.
Yes.
Mike Pedamonte,
Yes.
just had a quick question
For
for
sure.
Alana while we have them on in the clinic. SLP new and SLP follow-up. Did we confirm that those two appointment types make sense and that we don't need anything different?
I think those are, yeah, from
Those are
my
just fine.
standpoint, that's fine. Yeah, the first time I see them versus follow up. Now,
Okay.
I do have a question about one thing, although sometimes I get a patient who is a re-referral from like years ago, that would still count as a new, and hopefully that's able to still kind of carry forward.
Yep, exactly. And then the other one would be the group. I don't know what you got to see last week, or sorry, a couple weeks ago when we did the group demo. I was thinking for the design session next Monday, just to create a very basic group, and something that we could at least show the clinic that's designed that will actually show up on your schedule. What do you have any insight on what you might like for that group in terms of duration, or any naming convention, or have you decided against group booking, or do you want to maybe look at that down the road?
Oh, right, group bookings. Maybe it would be helpful to know what that can look like for sure.
Mhm.
I don't know that it's necessary for the first
Okay.
go live. Yeah, we don't have any on the horizon, but it is something I'm trying to plan here.
Okay, let's hold off on demoing it again for the design session. I don't want to build it for your clinic if it's not needed yet.
Sure, for sure.
It's pretty straightforward in terms of getting it rolled out. If it's after go live, it'll be our sustainment team that just creates you that appointment type and kind of ramps up the clinic on how to create those sessions. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone else on the call?
Hi, this is Florinda from registration. I have a quick question. When you're registering patients on the day of the appointment, do you need to print any bracelets or face sheets?
I'm not sure what that is. Sorry.
So armbands with the patient's name and medical.
Oh, no, they're outpatient. Unless they're coming over from inpatient, which I don't think I've ever had, maybe once. Otherwise, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other final questions? Okay, all right. If there's no final questions, again, thank you very much. We'll stop the recording and hope everyone has a great rest of your